All right. It's been a few weeks, but we are back. We're here.
Feels good.
Everybody take a deep breath. We're going to do this. Welcome back to the RTF Show. I am your host, Michael, here with Brother John. As always, Brother John, what's going on?
Oh boy, we have a lot to catch up on.
We do.
Lots to catch up on. I want all of the juicy Thanksgiving gossip. How did Ken embarrass himself this year around the future in-laws? I need it all. But first, just want to throw it out there. Portland Timbers Conference Championship on Saturday. MLS Finals in 2 weeks. It all runs through Portland now. So looking forward to that.
Very exciting. Very exciting. All right. Well, we're here to talk about a different brand of football, as they call it. We're going to go over, we got a lot to catch up on, as John said. We're going to do a quick trot through of week 10 through 12 and talk about some of what went down there. We'll hit some news. There's been a wave of injuries that has swept over the league and really just, damaged some teams. And then we're going to take a quick look ahead at what the playoff positioning and the jockeying that's happening is going to look like over the next couple of weeks. So let's dive into it, and we're just going to breeze right by this piece of this first piece of news as quick as possible. We're just going to say it. Peter won the Survivor Championship again. Thank you. Good job, Peter. We're all happy for you. That's it. That's all I got to say. All right. Next piece of news. Big win for Bill Boylan. Gets his weekly high. He won his second weekly kind of special competition that we had running this year. Won it this week, week 12.
Week 12, yeah. Yeah, no one knew it was happening. Bill went out there and competed anyway.
Yep. Yes, he did. Incredible. 115 points for Bill. It was a low-scoring week all the way around. Bill went out there and grabbed it. So even in a year where it's, Bill's took his lumps this year, he's going to get some of his money back. So congrats to William. Proud of him. Good job, Bill.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a wild card.
Yeah. Unfortunately, out of the actual wild card competition. But
yes, very much so.
A wild card nonetheless. All right. I'm just gonna say it. Growing up playing football, I was never a very good quarterback. I think I had a good arm, but I wasn't accurate at all, and I made bad decisions. I played quarterback a little bit when we would play.
I feel like people were always having you as quarterback.
Yeah, but that was more of a we didn't have any other options. So if I hurt and I would split off. But
question. Yeah. Is this when you guys kind of grew up in that range, right? Is this because in Chicago everyone was looking at Rex Grossman and being like rocket arm? Accuracy doesn't really matter too much. Just can you throw it hard and far?
Yep.
Maybe I think Mike, you're great. You're the model quarterback.
Maybe that was it. It was not my position. But that seems to have been carried over to fantasy football. I can't figure out what the fuck is going on with these quarterbacks to save my life. It is infuriating. I'm not really sure what to do at this point. I've got 2 of the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks, both of whom have scored less than 7 points in alternating weeks. I don't know. I'm rolling the dice here.
Yeah. That's tough. I mean,
any advice I'm open to.
Maybe do the opposite. I don't really understand the Jalen Hurts play. last week instead of Dak. Yeah, I guess Dax had very few wide receivers or had some injuries there on his team. So I guess I get that. And the week before, Hurts playing New Orleans and Dak playing Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, it makes sense, but that's unfortunate. And so,
I was looking at paper, and and it certainly made sense to me. I mean, the Eagles playing the Giants on Sunday. I certainly thought that was a game ripe for Hurts to have a good day. It's a Thanksgiving game for Dak on a Thursday. Who knows what happens in a game like that? And he's missing his top two wide receivers. It just didn't seem like the right play. So
yeah, I mean, but fantasy football it's a heart sport. If you look too much at the paper, Mike, you get lost in the weeds there. You need to look inward to your heart.
It's
or
true.
ask Barbara,
it's true.
because maybe Barbara will be able to choose better than you can. So
well, she would just go off of who looks nicer. That's her.
I think it's got to be Dak. Which you have Dak slated for another Thursday night game. Are you going to roll that out against New Orleans?
We'll see.
I need a commitment here now.
I cannot provide one. But I will say this. You will notice that today, for the first time ever on the RTF show, we got a first this week. It's been, we've had like 20, over 25 episodes at this point.
I see this.
This is the first episode of the RTF show that you will notice I am not wearing the traditional host jersey. Instead, do you know what I'm wearing, John?
I do know what you're wearing. It looks pretty good.
Yeah. Instead, I got owned this week by one Charlie Gorman, and it was embarrassing, and much to Ken's chagrin, and I heard a lot about it over Thanksgiving. But in honor of Charlie's, takedown of me, I've decided to wear his brewery shirt, Second Profession Brewing.
It looks
and
good.
I hope to burn this shirt after the season when I win the championship, and I shall mail the ashes back to Charlie.
It looks good on you. It's funny that Ken would be, razzing you, and really he should have been rooting for you.
He was rooting for me. That's why he was so upset.
He was taking his anger out on you. Oh yes, I understand.
Yes.
We all have been on that end of Ken's wrath.
Yep. But I'm not the only one, and we're going to delve into this person's team a little bit. I'm not the only one who has stumbled down the stretch here. Steve, after starting out fairly even this season, I think he was 5-4 at week 9, tied with Brendan for the lead in their division, has proceeded to lose 3 straight.
3 in a row.
And some of them in pretty, bad fashion.
Like a train wreck.
It's been a rough go of it for Steve. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're looking at polar opposites here. So you're going into the trade deadline, right? Week 9, finish week 9. Both Steve and Fitz are 5-4. Both are looking to improve their teams, and unquestionably, they go out and improve their teams.
Yep.
Steve goes and gets Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley,
traded for Elijah Mitchell.
Yep, and things are looking good for him. I thought it was pretty great. Fitz also goes out and gets Mark Cooper, trades for McNichols, who has ended up not being very relevant here, but they both go out.
Mark Cooper gets hurt. Yeah.
Mark Cooper got hurt. Yes. Yeah. Somehow Fitz has gone on a 3-game winning streak, while Steve is on a 3-game losing streak, and which was started by purchasing players from Peter Sullivan and then proceeded to lose week 10 against Sullivan after essentially taking his best players. I mean, you can't write that sort of drama, but at this point now, Steve's on his last legs fighting for a wild card spot rather than the division, as Fitz has locked it up at 8-4, 3-1 in the division, a commanding lead. And we see Steve has also gotten several injuries, had some similar bad luck, you could say, as you choosing which players to start. But looking at this last week, oh my gosh, it's hard. If you go to week 12, it is it's terrible. I mean, granted, you could say Aaron Jones, Elijah Mitchell, both were questionable coming off injuries. He chose Jones. I wouldn't fault him for that. Had he chose Elijah Mitchell, he would have won the week. But can't really fault him for going with Aaron Jones. However, having duds from Mike Evans, Jamar Chase, Darren Waller now getting hurt, Saquon Barkley seemed like he was on a pitch count. And then Aaron Jones just putting up a stinker while A.J. Dillon takes all the work.
It was a I mean, I would imagine for Steve, it's a disheartening matchup. This was the game of the season for Steve, for him to really remain relevant. We'll briefly kind of jump ahead here for a second. But in order for Steve to make the playoffs at this point, I have to lose out. Steve's got to win out, and he's also got to overtake me in points, by which I think I'm ahead by about 90 or so.
Yes, that's correct.
So
maybe 80, but
it's going to be a tough road for Steve ahead. And then the other thing I just want to point out, and this not to just continue piling shit on Steve, but this was the game of the season for him, and unfortunately for Antonio Gibson showed up, got him a good show.
That was great. Yeah.
But his kicker and his defense, who put up a combined 34 points, outscored Lamar Jackson, Mike Evans, Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, and Darren Waller combined.
Yeah.
That's devastating. Sorry, Steve. That's a rough one.
Yeah, it's actually pretty incredible. I mean, everything just had to swing the wrong way there for him. And, if he had beaten him there, then, hopes would have stayed alive there as far as the division goes. But at this point now, he's going to need you to lose out and catch you in points, which, you never know. But it's hard to stay motivated after that sort of defeat.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Steve. All right. I'm going to do a quick power rankings update here. The power rankings are as such. Not much has changed at the bottom since week 9, except for John plummeting by design, I guess. Sold off his team, and so took a big hit in the rest of season roster rankings.
Which I'm quite glad I did, by the way. Kamara has been injured. CeeDee Lamb was injured. Pretty much my whole team got injured right after I sold off. So, feeling okay with that. And, we'll see a couple players that I sold off that are potentially on the injury report now. So,
yeah, I agreed. It wouldn't have worked out well, likely for you. The bottom half of the league made up by Kelly, John, Bill, Sully, Charlie, and Steve. down there at number 7. Ken is at number 2, fighting
No.
for a playoff spot.
No.
Sorry, Ken is at number 6. Sorry, moving up two spots from the last time we saw him. Fighting for a playoff spot. We'll get into that in a second. Alec at number 5. Fitz at number 4. Brett, Josh at number 3. Mike at number 2. And Peter at number 1, holding fast. You can see the point per game average there, and this kind of falls along those lines for the most part, Steve being a kind of glaring exception. But Peter with averaging 12 more points per game than any other team in the league.
That 183 to
really
clinch
helped out.
Survivor was incredible. I mean,
yeah,
Jonathan Taylor's been playing unreal. I mean, minus when they don't give him the football and they end up losing. But when they do give him the football, it is incredible to watch. And Peter lucked out there. So far, no injuries for Peter's big. Besides, I guess Kyler Murray, no major injuries to any of his keepers. So
that's a good segue into some of the injury news that we've seen. So why don't you go through the list, guys that have gotten injured of late?
Just this last week alone, we saw CMC get retired for the year after a disappointing campaign. I think I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but he's only played probably 10 or 12 games in the last 2 years, which is not great. Dalvin Cook tearing his other labrum. DeAndre Swift injuring his knee. Zeke also potentially having a knee injury, although Jerry Jones came out saying we're going to run this guy into the ground. Michael Carter, I believe, who's on Ken's team, also headed to IR. Debo finally coming down with an injury this year after, last few years always seemed to be injured, having a groin injury. And then Darren Waller, who, much like Swift, got injured on Thanksgiving. So, and then the entire Cowboys coaching staff getting COVID and so even more probably that we're missing.
On top of guys that are banged up at the moment, right? Guys that everybody expected to play well. Alvin Kamara, Murray, which we had mentioned, Russell Wilson being another guy who's clearly not right. It's been crazy.
Chris Carson went to IR since we last.
Chris Carson went to IR. All this. Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah. It's been an incredibly injury-prone season.
It's nuts. All this to say, I want to pull up this graphic that was in a fantasy newsletter this morning and give you guys a look. This is the top 24. I don't know if you saw this. This is the top 24 running backs by draft position, average draft position before the season started. So top 5, McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, Henry, Saquon. Almost all of them injured still or out essentially for the rest of the season. Jonathan Taylor crushing it. Zeke appears to just be playing hurt. Chubb missed time this year. Eckler killing it.
Incredible.
Cam Akers out for the year. Aaron Jones could still be hurt. You got Joe Mixon winning leagues. Najee doing well. Antonio Gibson maybe healthy now, but has had this really just kind of season. Swift hurt. Edwards-Helaire been out for most of the season. J.K. Dobbins on IR before the season even started. Miles Sanders has been hurt this year. Josh Jacobs has been hurt, may be continuing to play hurt. Chris Carson on IR. David Montgomery's been hurt for an extended stretch. Travis Etienne goes out before the season started. Kareem Hunt has missed 5 games. And then it just says James Robinson, basically that he's stuck on the Jags, and the Jags are essentially like a wounded animal.
It's been doing well though. But yeah, that's an incredible graphic there. Especially your top 5. Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry brought probably several people to 8-0, before getting injured. Saquon has been, non-existent. And then, with Kamara now and Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey, it's a wasteland. And, when looking at our the top people in our league, Peter with Jonathan Taylor, you with Austin Eckler, we'll skip Joe Mixon. She's on Ken's team. And then who has Najee?
I mean, even the Joe Mixon thing, Ken still has a chance to make the playoffs, and that's mostly because of Joe Mixon. Totally. I think you could argue. So it's been,
without a doubt,
he's been pretty good. And then Najee is stuck toiling on the average Peters. But
on whose team?
The average Peters.
Well, he's got a bright future there.
Yeah, and Najee's a guy he's excited about. But I mean, essentially, you've got 4 guys that are guarantees for you week in, week out, and 20 guys that are either injured or have been injured for most of the season. So it's wild out there.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, that's a great graphic.
It was stunning to see.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And now that you bring up Sullivan with having Najee Harris, it's kind of like it's kind of interesting because he started off. Najee started off a little slow, right? It took a while to get going, and now he's been great. But Sully's season kind of had the exact opposite there, where Sully started off really hot. I believe 3-1, and then as soon as Najee started to get hot, Sully's team rattled off a 5-game losing streak until beating Steve in week 10, like we discussed, and so it's kind of an interesting inverse there.
I think the thing to point out there is that his number 1 receiver, Terry McLaurin, who started off fine, he had up and down start to the season to start it, has had a mostly down season overall.
For sure.
With some flashes of big games, but for the most part, during that extended losing streak that Pete had, Najee was down, and then Miles Sanders
too. Yeah.
Miles Sanders just never really
surfaced
as a reliable running back. And then T. Higgins, who I think Pete was hoping T. Higgins' season actually, I think Pete was hoping he was going to be a top guy, and it just hasn't quite happened.
Did he keep wide receiver 3?
Yes.
For 3 years?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, that's rough. I mean, with the emergence of Jamar Chase there, I don't know how you can justify keeping a wide receiver 2 on a team, but
it's going to be tough.
Let's make some decisions there. I mean, thankfully he's got a fuck ton extra money, so to get him through. next
was
year, just like he did this year. So in theory,
speaking.
yeah, I think he'll be okay. So
We will see. Speaking of money, let's jump real quick over to the waiver wire. Not too much going on here over the last week. We'll highlight two things. One, pull it up here. One was just that Josh snagged Matt Breida, which I think is a good pickup for Josh. Adds some depth to his team going into the playoffs. And it's hard to start a Buffalo running back, but it does seem like Breida is going to get work there. So if
it's pretty
you're
interesting.
going to roster one, you might as
Yeah, Zach Moss, healthy scratch last week on Thursday. I don't know what it is. It seems maybe similar to Trevor Sermon's situation out in San Francisco. Just they're not seeing what they thought they were going to be seeing from him. And then they know what they have in Singletary, and so I think it's a pretty good pickup. I mean, we could see them start to lean a little bit more. Another good comparison there with Breida would be, potentially James Conner, where, while Chase Edmonds was the guy injured, seems as if Conner has now found a pretty good spot there to provide decent fantasy value. So we'll see.
Ken gave me a solid 10 minutes on Matt Breida when we were watching football on Sunday.
That's it?
I won't bore you.
Only 10?
Trust me, 10 minutes on Matt Breida is more than enough.
I would be done after about 90 seconds, I would say.
To be fair, I asked. The only other one, you picked up Kendrick Born, which I thought was a nice pickup.
Thank you. Oh.
It's Kendrick Born, a guy that really has come on of late and is seeing a decent amount of targets every week, involved in the offense. I like him. I like what Mac Jones is doing there, and I like the consistency with which Bourne is catching the football. So I think that's a guy you might look at and say, hey, maybe I snagged the late season keeper.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought process there too. Coming on late, he seems to be doing pretty well. I watched him, play this past week, and I was pretty impressed by his ability there. And it doesn't seem like Aguilar is going to have any semblance of relevance in that offense. I'm not even sure whether he's injured or not, but regardless, I like it there, and like Fitz has me a believer in Mac Jones. He looks good there. He looks poised, calm in the pocket, and seems to be an accurate passer from everything everyone is saying. And based on Bourne's numbers alone, right there, the ball is being placed where they can catch it, and it's being thrown well, and so could be a guy to hold on to there. So thank you, Fitz, for
I agree.
pushing the Mac Jones narrative.
The only other one I see now, Josh picked up Russell Gage, which I just don't know what to make of Atlanta, and so it's really hard to, that team is kind of a mess, and the only player really worth starting on that team at this point seems like Cordell Patterson.
Agreed. Yeah, at this point, we know who
pretty
Russell
much their
Gage
whole-
is. He's been there with Julio. He's been there with Ridley. It just doesn't seem like he can make the play. Either the big play to get open to running those routes, and so
I also just don't know that Matt can get the ball to him.
The
But
corpse of Matt Ryan,
yeah. But no, I mean, I don't. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. All right. Let's move on. Let's get to why we're all here. Playoff scenarios, real quick. We'll go through this. We're gonna have a lot more clarity coming up, and we won't do playoff matchup scenarios, but we will do kind of what needs to play out over the next week or two, or really the next week, because this week I think kind of makes or breaks what's going to happen.
For sure.
So just to lay it all out there for people, we've got 4 teams that have clinched for the 6 playoff spots. 4 teams that have clinched a playoff spot. They are the Alpha Peter at 9-3, and then we've got 3 teams at 8-4. Those 3 teams: Josh, who's at the top of his division; Brendan, who's at the top of his division and has clinched his division.
Yes.
And then the other 8-4 team is Alec. Alec could still rival Kramer for the division title. It's possible. And, Alec would essentially need to win out. Kramer would need to lose out in order for Alec to take over the division. And that seems somewhat unlikely, but it is still possible. So I would say, pretty much Kramer's clinched that division. Alec has clinched the first wild card spot. Josh up at the top here. Josh 8-4. I am behind him at 7-5. That division still somewhat up for grabs. Although I think well,
I mean,
based on
if you went out and Josh loses one game, then you guys are tied, right?
Yes.
And the points situation is incredibly close. 9 points there difference, right? And so there's several situations here in which it could play out where you could win outright if Josh loses the next 2 games and you win the next 2 games. But otherwise, if Josh wins both games or you lose 1 game,
just to put a finer point on that, I play Bill this week, and then I play you. And Josh plays Kelly, and then he plays Peter. So we're both playing teams that are out of the playoffs. We're both playing teams that we should beat over these next 2 weeks, but I say should because you never know.
Totally. Yeah, it's an interest. That one's going to be a really good one to keep an eye on. Obviously, we'll know a lot more after this week.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
And then as far as the other wild card spot goes, we're looking at.
That's really it for the wild. And
we're looking at Steve and you potentially as the wild card spots, right? With Alec clinching there. In theory, I guess Ken is also in contention for the wild card spot. However, due to total points 4, it's almost impossible for Ken to make up that ground, let alone Charlie for make up to that ground. And so you're sitting 90 points ahead of Steve here, and so Steve would really need he would need to win out, you would need to lose out, and he would need to make up 90 points on you. And so that's going to be pretty difficult to do, let alone
it seems
if you end up winning the division and then Josh would get that. Josh would get the wild card spot, right? And so
and Josh is up over about 80 points on Steve as well. So it's it seems at this moment in week 13, and I think we'll have some real clarity on this in by week 14 that the final wild card spot will come out of the Hallis division. So either Josh or I will be the final wild card spot.
Yeah, and that,
and that just leaves everybody's favorite division, the lovable losers, the Dicka division, the division that as a whole has a losing record, has one 500 team, and is composed of Charlie, Ken, and Kelly. What a cast of characters. Somebody's got to win that division. Who's it going to be, John? Who's it going to be?
Obviously, if in breaking this down, can we move to the matchup ahead this week?
Yep.
We've got Ken versus Charlie. Potentially a battle for the division. Now, there are some scenarios we can play out here. But I've got to believe, does Ken even have a quarterback on his roster that he can play at the moment?
Ken will be starting Derek Carr.
Interesting. I do like that play against Washington. I think Derek Carr is going to have a pretty good game there. Although I've bet my play of hopes on Derek Carr before and did not go well. Now, Ken does catch Charlie on the Packers bye week, which, as we all remember, Charlie last year with the Packers bye week posted the lowest score I think any of us have ever seen in fantasy football. I think it was 17 points.
Yep.
Incredible. Never been done before, never been done since. So he does catch him on that week. However, Charlie has planned a fair bit better holding on to Tom Brady, rather than trading him before the trade deadline. It's going to be a pretty close game, I think, but I do think Ken's going to pull this one out. I think we're going to see a big game from Mixon. I think we're going to see a huge bounce back game from Metcalf. Devonta Smith also had a down game last week and was pretty pissed after the game. I think we're going to see a good game from him as well. Mike Williams is a crapshoot at this point. You never know. The Chargers have been playing terrible. And unfortunately, for Ken at this point, Charlie's got some pretty good players on the other side as far as Melvin Gordon has been producing fantasy-wise. Brandon Cooks consistently putting up numbers. And then, Kenny Golladay finally getting healthy and might be coming back into the fold there. So,
well, a couple things to note for Charlie's team. One, both David Johnson and Brandon Cooks missed practice with an illness today. Melvin Gordon did not practice today. The illness thing for David Johnson and Brandon Cooks, obviously concerning, given the state of the world and their ability to play.
Is it non-COVID?
So at this point, it appears to be non-COVID, but we shall see. I think we'll probably get. This came out at 3:00 today for Brandon Cooks. 3:01 today, so right afterwards for David Johnson. Obviously, worth noting, they play on the same football team, and we all know that COVID is a virus that spreads rapidly, and it certainly sounds like the Omicron variant of the virus is here, and could very well already be spreading. So we'll see what happens with this.
What's
It'll be really interesting because
Yeah.
if Charlie can't start David Johnson or Brandon Cooks, he's got Mark Ingram.
He's got Jamal Williams.
And he's got Jamal Williams,
Who should be
who he probably should
play.
just start anyway. He probably should just start Jamal Williams anyway over a number of these players.
At least
the bigger
flex and bounce Sammy Watkins out of there.
Yeah, the bigger thing is he's going to have to start Tim Patrick at wide receiver. He doesn't have another eligible.
Well, he's
wide
got
receiver.
Kenny Galladay.
Oh, he's got Galladay in his flex. Okay.
He's got Kenny Galladay in his flex. So you kick. I mean, yes, if Cooks ends up missing the game, he'll be starting Galladay, Watkins, who's been, I mean,
Sammy Watkins is barely relevant.
99% rostered there.
Yeah.
It's only getting worse. And so,
he had negative points.
To start Ingram
he had negative fantasy points 3 weeks
I love
ago.
it.
So,
I
don't know.
Let's start Ingram in his flex, essentially, which, I mean, you're starting at that point, you'd be starting 2 New York Giants pass catchers, which, if I remember correctly, I heard a stat that Daniel Jones has not thrown a touchdown pass to a wide receiver since October.
Well,
so
maybe
not
he's
getting
due.
much production out of there. So
maybe he's due.
I do think Ken has a very good opportunity here. He can pull it out, right the ship. If he wins here, they're then tied for the division, which at that point then comes down to week 14, where week 14, Ken is playing Peter Kramer and Charlie's playing Bill, which 2 very different matchups. However,
Ken, I will note, is pissed about this. Does not like that he has to play Peter Kramer arbitrarily. And you know what, Ken? Tough titties, buddy. Figure it out. You'll be fine.
Ken runs away from challenges, huh?
I don't know that Ken runs away from challenges. I think Ken just likes to complain. So
for sure,
Peter
will have clinched maybe his division at that point, and maybe he'll rest his guys. I mean, Peter's all about the team chemistry, making sure everyone's right for playoffs.
In our last episode, I did go in on Peter Kramer's bench, and I got smacked back down to reality when he put up 180 something points with Survivor. But the original arguments hold true. Kramer's got a weak bench. We all know it. I'm not afraid to say it. Somebody's got to speak reality into existence. Kramer's got a weak-ass bench.
I mean, I don't want any of those.
These scrubs? Are you kidding me?
Russell
Guys
Wilson,
like Nick
terrible.
Chubb, guys like George Kittle, get them out of here. Jalen Waddle, no, thank you.
Tevin Coleman, please. I mean, the fact that I think Peter's the only person who, is not using his IR spots. At least one of his IR spots. I mean, says a lot.
Not at this point.
Well, us plebs at the bottom of the rankings have a lot of people on IR. So
hey, I had CHE installed in there for a while. CEH installed in there for a while. All right. So just to recap here, Ken needs to, essentially, if Charlie wins, he's in. Charlie's going to win the list. If Ken wins, week 14 will decide it. Ken plays Kramer. Charlie plays Bill. We'll see how that goes. Bill, there's every chance that Bill's put up some big weeks of late. There's a every chance that Bill could beat Charlie. So there's a chance both of them lose those matchups.
Yeah, if they both lose, or if they both win, it comes down to points, which Ken has 80 points on Charlie. So if he wins this week, then he'll be adding to that total, and then it, pretty much either if they have the same outcome in week 14, Ken takes the division.
Yep.
And then obviously if one wins and the other loses, the winner takes the division, and the other's out of the playoffs. It's looking like at that point then, if this is all if Ken wins this week, right? They're both going to be 6 and 7. And so either we will have the division winner being 7 and 7, or the division winner being 6 and 8.
Yep. We'll see.
It's fucking embarrassing.
It really is. All right. I think that kind of lays it out there. So people who need a win this week really, really need a win. Ken and Steve, in order to Steve to maintain any sense of relevance, desperately needs a win here. Ken desperately needs a win here. And I would really like a win, just so that I sleep better at night.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Peter Kramer's, his notice of no, roast tackle football show, you lose. Perhaps us being here will get you that win.
It's possible. We will see. But that's for next week to find. We'll find out next week. And I just want to know something. I can't. It's like glaring looking at this. And we'll end here. But I have to say this. The Ditka division is very clear that Ken and Kelly have tried way too hard to win that division.
It's incredible.
Charlie has $111 left over in fab. That's more than he should have started with. He's up in fab from the start. That's fucking incredible. $111 left in fab. He's only made 7 moves all season.
Yeah.
Has $14 left in fab. She's made 32 moves this season.
League high.
Ken, $2 left in fab. He's made 22 moves. So it's really quite something, and maybe a study in outthinking yourself. And maybe you just draft your favorite team's best players, and that's how you do it.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, it's interesting. Ken $2 last in the season. So if he does, end up, making that push, he's gonna have to really rely on his team and make sure that he's got, either the defense. After next week, no more buys, which is great. Or no, there are week 14 buys.
Week 14 buys. That's why we installed the rivalry week, because there was no way to ensure that there were not buys during the divisional matchups at the end of the season.
Yeah, hopefully Ken's paying attention to that. And then looking at the other teams, you've got $2 for Ken, $8 for Steve left, and then only $9 left for you. Yep. More than enough to make the moves that you all need to make.
I don't plan on making any more moves.
I think the rest is.
We'll see.
So,
we'll see how it goes. Everybody pray for the Staley's quarterback situation to unfold over the next couple of days, because if it does not, I may be looking for a second profession. I may just fold this whole job up and close it down.
We'll know tomorrow. You have to play. You have to decide whether you're playing Dak.
Yep, I guess I do. All right, that's it. This has been another episode of the Rose Tackle Football Show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next week. We'll be back.
Go Timbers!